Next question.
Sure. Alpha Damlash from Rising Tide Capital, based in Jersey City, New Jersey. We provide entrepreneurial education to struggling entrepreneurs in deep inner cities. I guess my question is, it has to do with something that's on everyone's mind. The budget conversation is something that's being talked about a lot and causing organizations like myself and Ellen, thank you, we're great partners with the SBA and our prime grant recipients. One of the concerns that we have is that the government and the role that you play in initiating certain programs that there may not be private sector interest in at the current time is really critical. But with the funding realities and some of the things that we're hearing around what's going to happen to community development block grants and SBA funding, how is that impacting each of your works? And as you think about policy and these great ideas and how we go about spearheading them, we've been lucky enough to leverage our funding from the government 5 times over from the private sector. But it's still a really important component of what we do. So how are you dealing with the budget realities? How is it impacting what you want to do and what you see looking out? Thanks.
I'll take a first crack at that. 2 things that we're doing. The first is through our advisory council, we're actually looking at early stage and growth stage capital. And we're looking at, from a tax, from a regulatory, from a broad-based inhibitor standpoint, what are some of the things that the government should be doing to make it easier for companies to get access to capital? We talk about starting companies, right? If we want jobs 10 years from now, we need to start a lot of companies today. And if we want jobs 2 or 3 years from now, we need to make it easier for the companies that exist to really grow and take off. So we're not looking specifically at the venture space, but we're saying, how do we get more companies founded, started, created, up on their feet? And then once they've gotten going, right? Maybe had a couple of rounds, Series A, B, C, D, right? How do we make it so they can go and create 5,000 jobs instead of 500? So from knocking down regulatory, tax, other barriers, that's one of the things we're focused on. The second thing is we're looking at capital from a catalytic viewpoint. Our project, the I-6 Challenge, and this year the I-6 Green, we're not going to bring enough capital to any one community that's going to enable that community to say, that's all we need, thank you, we'll go and we'll take care of things, right? It's a $12 million competitive grant program. It's got a $500,000 match, but what we did, we only had $6 million. So we just like we're all saying, it's collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. We're partnering with USDA, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, and then internally among Commerce, looking even at in-kind contributions from the National Institutes of Standards and Technology and the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, to be able to bring the greatest amount of capital to the market, and then to say, you as a community now have to look deep, figure out what resources you have, and how can you use your capital in a cooperative, collaborative, new partnership to try and drive some of these things. So again, we're hoping to provide the catalyst, both in terms of the idea and in terms of some of the funding, but then looking to partner.
Just building on what Paul said, I think this is a good opportunity to talk about some of the access to capital initiatives that were announced a couple of weeks ago in advance of the president's budget that he rolled out earlier this week. So to get really specific, exactly what Paul said. I mean, the goal of a lot of these new access to capital initiatives is to say, you know, look, what can you do that doesn't require congressional approval? What can you do that doesn't require a lot of new money? Because both of those things are going to be obstacles to effective change in the near term, right? So right now, what we've been able to do, I think, will hopefully have an impact regardless. So number one, SBA just announced 2 new $1 billion Small Business Investment Corporation. Sorry, did I get the acronym correct? SBIC. 2 new programs. This is with existing authority, so don't even go back to Congress. This doesn't cost taxpayers any money because it's just leverage for the private sector, right? So we're not talking about government investing directly into startups. We're talking about the SBA basically providing leverage for private funds to choose which startups they want to invest in, both in the very early stage innovative companies that could otherwise fall into the valley of death, and also companies in innovative industries like clean tech, and also companies that happen to be located in lower and middle income areas. So that's happening, that's being rolled out right now, at no cost to the taxpayer. Number two, in the president's budget, you see a proposal. This does have to be approved by Congress, but it's in the president's budget and hopefully has a good shot of going through because, it is a tax reduction. It's, hopefully going to be the next of the president's 17 tax reductions for small businesses and entrepreneurs over the past 2 years. This will permanently eliminate capital gains on investments in qualified small businesses forever. So a huge incentive for increased investment from the private sector into more entrepreneurial, innovative firms. And then the third thing is a proposal to, a commitment on the part of the Treasury Department to streamline and take a close look at the rules around the New Markets Tax Credit, which is probably something you're familiar with. It's an existing program that basically gives an upfront tax credit to investments in small businesses and entrepreneurs in distressed or urban areas. Right now, a lot of that money is going to real estate development projects, which are critical. It's very difficult, apparently, to drive that capital into, or to take advantage of that tax credit, drive that capital into startups in these lower income areas. But Treasury is committed to changing the rules this year to make that a lot easier. So that's just a couple of examples that we announced 2 weeks ago under the banner of Startup America of things that government can do now, even in these tight fiscal times.
I would like to add that let's remember this is part of the process of our nation is the budget, and the president of course presents the budget, but it is the first big message that we've received for this particular year, but it's an ongoing process. So what I would say first of all is please be active communicators, each and every one of you. We are all voters, we're all citizens of this country, and we do have a responsibility, frankly, to put forward the message of the importance of a role, whatever your thoughts are on that, regarding the support of business in this country. So I think that being an active communicator is utmost of importance. I appreciate your point about also the notion of leveraging, what you stated in the sense of if you're an organization that does provide technical assistance to prospective businesses and so forth, that is critical. From my end, very often we work with organizations in cities that, once again, since I mentioned to you, or I've stated to you all that we invest in rural areas, you all may provide technical assistance to communities in rural America. We finance that. We have grants for technical assistance. So that is something under our Rural Microenterprise Assistance Program. And then we have a variety of programs that are geared towards intermediaries. So back to your expertise, for some of you who may be engaged in operating revolving loan funds, that again is a critical expertise. It's not for everybody, but if you've got the capacity and being able to do that at the local level, we are very open to partnering with you.
Great.
I would just like to add one thing. I look at the budget as a business proposition. It's just on a much larger scale, and my friend's laughing. But in any business, you have to make certain decisions, and some of it comes from, is it a wise investment? Is there a return on investment? And I think that the budget is what we're looking at now. It's just is a reality that we will be dealing with. And so I think that we need entrepreneurs in this room, entrepreneurs in government need to be entrepreneurial in the way we craft new programs or find ways to continue and sustain programs. And I think that we can be agents of change in a new business model.